Sometimes, the smallest stories carry the biggest lessons. Let's discover one together.
The old Zen master gently placed a small black stone on a weathered wooden table. Without looking up, he quietly said, "No one has ever kept this stone for more than 7 days." A young traveler chuckled. "It's only a stone." The old master slowly raised his eyes and smiled. Then he whispered, "By the 7th day, it will show you the biggest lie you've ever told yourself." The room fell silent. The young traveler smiled with confidence. "I'll prove you wrong." He slipped the smooth black stone into his pocket and began his journey down the mountain. The first day passed peacefully. Nothing unusual happened. He even laughed at the master's strange warning. But on the second morning, as he prepared to begin his work, he stretched lazily and sighed. "I'll do it tomorrow." The moment those words left his mouth, the stone felt slightly heavier. He frowned and reached into his pocket. "That's strange." The next day, another excuse appeared. "Maybe I'm just unlucky." Instantly, the stone grew heavier again. By the 3rd day, climbing a few simple stairs left him breathless. Every step felt harder than before. On the 4th day, fear began to replace his confidence. He threw the black stone into a rushing river and watched it disappear beneath the water. Finally relieved, he smiled. But the next morning, the stone was back inside his pocket. His smile vanished. His hands began to shake. On the 5th day, frustration took over. "None of this is my fault. My family is the reason my life never changed." At that very moment, the stone became unbelievably heavy. His pocket ripped open, and the tiny pebble crashed onto the dusty road. People stopped walking. They stared in confusion as the young traveler struggled with all his strength to lift what looked like an ordinary little stone. By the 6th day, he could barely stand. Every excuse, every complaint, every lie he kept telling himself made the invisible burden even heavier. Completely exhausted, he began climbing back toward the mountain temple. Each step felt like carrying the weight of his entire life. On the 7th day, he finally reached the old Zen master. Falling to his knees, he carefully placed the tiny black stone on the wooden table. His voice trembled. "Please, take it back." The old Zen master smiled kindly. Without any effort, he picked up the stone using only 2 fingers. It looked completely weightless. The young traveler stared in disbelief. "How is that possible?" The master looked gently into his eyes. Then he quietly said, "The stone was never heavy." A deep silence filled the temple. Then he continued, "Your excuses were." The young traveler's eyes filled with tears. For the first time in years, he wasn't crying because life seemed unfair. He was crying because he finally understood. The old Zen master slowly turned toward an ancient wooden shelf. It was covered with hundreds of identical black stones. "Whose are they?" the young traveler whispered. The master smiled. "They belong to everyone who blamed life instead of changing themselves." The young traveler looked down at his empty hands. For the first time, they felt light. Years later, people often asked him the secret behind his success. He simply smiled and replied, "The day I stopped carrying excuses, I finally found the strength to carry my dreams." Life lesson. Excuses always seem small when we make them, but little by little, they become the heaviest burden we carry. The moment you stop blaming life and start taking responsibility, you become free enough to build the future you've always dreamed of.